Honorable judges, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. We are only 7 minutes from doomsday. In February 2002, the doomsday clock, on which midnight represents destruction by nuclear war, was moved 2 minutes ahead. Now, humankind is only 7 minutes from nuclear annihilation. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe world peace is a dream cherished by each and every decent human being. Yet, the reality is that there has never been a time in history when we're so vulnerable. The fear of nuclear proliferation, the fear of the spread of weapons of mass destruction to many more countries is on the rise. Nuclear weapons are the enemies of humanity. Their effects transcend time and space, poisoning the earth and its inhabitants for generations to come. A single nuclear bomb can be 1,000 times more devastating than the largest conventional explosives. A single nuclear weapon can ruin tons of soil and vegetation. A single nuclear weapon can destroy an entire city of over 120,000 defenseless civilians and leave about twice the number of people to die in slow agony. Nuclear weapons, with their indiscriminate, massive destructive power, can now destroy the world several times over. Terrified by the catastrophic power of nuclear weapons, I dare not think what the world would be like if this dark and monstrous power should fall into wrong hands. If Adolf Hitler's tyrannical regime had acquired the first functioning nuclear weapon, history would have to be rewritten. And even worse, what if the terrorists go nuclear? What if the perpetrators of September 11th horrors, whose intent to inflict destruction is unconstrained by human feelings, and whose capacity to inflict is enlarged by technology, could strike again, and this time with dirty bombs? If we hesitate in the face of the threat when we should have acted as early as possible, then we're condemned to live under everlasting lament and horror. Hence, the time has come for us to do something. Together in partnership, we should stem the tide of nuclear proliferation for human security and survival. It is time for us to turn down the heat on nuclear dangers by endorsing a non-proliferation treaty and establishing nuclear-free zones. And more importantly, we should integrate non-proliferation efforts into our education so that the next generation will learn more about nuclear dangers and their inherent risks. And they will understand better than us that the human future is as much about scientific advancements, environmental protection, as it is about arsenals. Ladies and gentlemen, in a time when there's a dark cloud hanging over the future of humanity, when our hope for a peaceful world may be broken, we've got to work together to change the situation. We've got to integrate our efforts into non-proliferation regime, and we've got to make it better. And ladies and gentlemen, I know that you may say I am a dreamer, but I'd say I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will live as one. Thank you very much.
Contestant number 18. It is often asserted that the purpose of education is to free the mind and the spirit. However, formal education tends to restrain our minds and spirits rather than set them free. Do you think university education should be more open-minded and free? And what aspect of your university life should be improved?
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, my coach told me that I should begin my speech by telling you a joke. But now, as you can see, I'm so nervous that I've forgotten all of them. So I have no choice but to begin my speech by providing an answer to the question. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I believe this topic is about the ultimate role of university education and in what ways should we do to make it better. both for the comprehensive development of university students and for the general benefit of the society as a whole. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to answer these questions in two parts. First of all, about university education. I do believe that university education should be more free and open-minded. And I have two reasons. First of all, education is about the imparting of knowledge and skills. And these knowledge and skills people acquire in college and universities are meant to make them travel freely in a sea of knowledge. And then they will make them apply the knowledge and skills and expertise in their future life and job. So therefore, the inherent task of university is to make education freer and more open-minded. And secondly, the second reason is that I believe today our university education is facing a grave challenge because many students are constrained by their textbooks. They choose to become passive learners instead of thinking critically and independently. So ladies and gentlemen, to tackle this problem, we believe that university education's got to make changes. And now, next part, I'm going to provide some suggestions to make university life better. First of all, I believe that universities should strengthen their teaching facilities. For example, more rooms, more computers, and more books in the libraries, so as to create a better learning environment for the university students. And secondly, I believe that universities should incorporate the idea and notion of creative thinking and critical thinking into our education so as to make the students aware that it is more important to be creative and critical than to be passive learners and bookworms. So ladies and gentlemen, based on what I have mentioned, that I believe that universities should be more free and open-minded, and they can be freer and more open-minded, and students, instead of being bookworms and nerds, should become critical thinkers and independent thinkers. Thank you very much.
Contestant number 18, we've heard very clearly your strong concern over nuclear weapons. Do you also feel so strongly about the peaceful use of nuclear energy?
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, because I think this question is really very important. We know that while the governments around the world are paying every effort to cut down the proliferation of nuclear energy, well, at the same time, they are advocating the peaceful application of nuclear energy by setting more nuclear power plants and nuclear power units. A typical example can be found in China because the Beijing local government has already committed to build 30 more nuclear units so as to make a clean environment for Beijing and so as to achieve a goal, to make the city more efficient in energy, more efficient in energy consuming so as to make a better environment for the 2008 Olympic Games. And another example can be found in the British government. While recently, the British Prime Minister Tony Blair had announced that Britain is determined to build more nuclear power plants so as to solve the nation's energy needs. So I believe that this is very much important for the national development, and this recognized around the world. Thank you very much.
Contestant number 18, thank you very much for your speeches.
Thank you.
Many young people nowadays are not very satisfied with just acquiring a bachelor degree, but go on to do graduate studies. What, in your view, how important you think it is to acquire more degrees?
Thank you very much for your question, ma'am. I believe this question is about how much knowledge you can gain, and how many diplomas you can have. I believe to have more diplomas does not necessarily mean that the person is more knowledgeable and more experienced. I believe to be knowledgeable, a person has to be totally engaged in this learning process by using his energy in every part of his learning, but not necessarily in gaining more diplomas. An example can be found in one of my friends. She has got an accounting diploma, a business English diploma, but she still failed in many of her English exams and accounting exams. I'm feeling terribly sorry for her because I know that she could have done better while using her knowledge, using her knowledge more in her study and in her pursuit of a comprehensive character, rather than in the blind pursuit of those diplomas. So I believe that diplomas does not equal knowledge and vice versa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, contestant number 18. You talked about university education was necessary to impart knowledge and skills, but also things to apply in your future life. Can you tell us something about what you have learned at university that you can apply to your life?
Thank you very much, ma'am. Things I have learned in college that will help me in the pursuit of my future life. I have to share with you a secret because I am about to become a civil servant. And I think I'm going to work in the government as a diplomat, or first as a diplomatic staff. And I believe the knowledge I have earned in my college life, for instance, the language, the English language proficiency, and secondly, the knowledge we have learned in our international relations courses, and the lessons we have learned in history lessons and in physical education will all help me gain a better understanding of life and help me be a more well-rounded person in my future life as a diplomatic staff. Thank you very much.